Terms of upper limb and first carpo-metacarpal joint. In this, the competencies covered are the dermatomes of upper limb, first carpo-metacarpal joint, sternoclavicular joint, and acromioclavicular joint. So first we'll start with dermatomes of upper limb. There are some clinically useful dermatomes. The dermatome of thumb is C6. The dermatome of middle finger is C7. And the dermatome of little finger is C8. That is from lateral to medial. C6, middle is C7 and little finger is C8. Then it ascends. Inner forearm is T1 and upper inner arm is T2. That is what we observe is starting from thumb that is C6, middle finger is C7, little finger is C8, their inner forearm is T1 and inner upper arm is T2. The upper limb dermatomes are complex because the limb buds are pulled out during early embryonic development. That's why there is a complexity as the limb buds are pulled out from the trunk region. Then coming to nerve supplying the upper limb, that is different areas or the different regions supplied in the upper limb. First, in the neck region, we have supraclavicular nerves. And these take origin from cervical plexus. So, cervical plexus supplies the root of neck, upper pectoral region, deltoid region and outer trapezius region, that is on the back. So supraclavicular nerves that arises from cervical plexus gives nerve supply to root of neck, upper pectoral, deltoid and outer trapezius. Then coming to posterior divisions of T1 to T3. Posterior divisions of T1 to T3 supply back region, that is the trapezius area, that is from neck to spine of scapula. So we have covered almost the similar area both anteriorly and posteriorly, and the remaining other than the limb region is supplied by brachial plexus. Again we will see the root values and the distribution. C3 and C4 supply root of neck, pectoral region, that is upper chest region and the shoulder. C5 supplies lateral aspect of upper limb, that is elbow. So C5 will be supplying above elbow on the lateral aspect. Then we come to C6. Radial side of hand and forearm are supplied by C6. Then, as we already discussed, C7 is supplied by C7 supplies the middle finger. C8, the skin over the small finger. Then on the medial aspect of hand. Then medial side of forearm, it is by T1. and medial side and upper aspect of arm and axial region is by T2. Then we go to discuss the first carpo-metacarpal joint. It is the most important joint of the thumb, and this joint is at the base of the thumb. The articular surfaces of first carpo-metacarpal joint and its type. Articular surfaces. The articular surfaces are distal side of trapezium and the base of first metacarpal. That is carpo-metacarpal. Carpal is trapezium and metacarpal is first metacarpal. The type of joint is synovial and subtype is saddle type. Saddle joint. In saddle joint, what we find is articular surfaces are concavo-convex. That is, half or some part will be concave and the other part will be convex. And the other articular surface also will be having convex and concave. So, opposite surfaces are concavo-convex. And in this type of joints, all movements are possible. That is flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and medial rotation and lateral rotation are also possible, but they are little or slight. Coming to movements of thumb and their axis. In the thumb, palmar abduction and adduction occur in medial lateral axis. The palmar abduction and adduction occur in medial lateral axis, whereas flexion and extension occur in anterior posterior axis. In the relaxed resting position of the hand, we can observe that the thumb is relatively abducted, and its palmar flexor surface directed in an ulnar direction. So, in a resting position of the hand, the thumb is abducted and flexor surface of the thumb is directed in ulnar direction. This position of the thumb adds to its function of prehension, that is ability to pinch or catch or hold. Then we come to sternoclavicular joint. This joint is only true articulation. This joint is only true articulation that exists between the trunk and the shoulder girdle. The shoulder girdle is made up of clavicle and the scapula. The sternum, which is an articular surface, has a shallow cavity. And this deficiency is overcome by an articular disc that is placed between the articulating surfaces. That is sternum and so the disc serves as a shock absorber for the forces that are transmitted through the clavicle to the sternum. So what we have seen is there is a deficiency that the sternum has shallow cavity. This deficiency is overcome by one disc that is in between the articulating surfaces. The disc not only accommodating or overcoming the deficiency, they also act as shock absorbers for any forces that are transmitted through the clavicle to the sternum. Coming to ligaments. It has a capsule which is strengthened to form anterior and posterior sternoclavicular ligament. And there is one ligament called as costoclavicular ligament. This helps to stabilize the joint by binding the medial clavicular metaphysis to the first rib. The ligament stabilizing the sternoclavicular joint are mainly the posterior sternoclavicular ligament, then anterior sternoclavicular ligament, costoclavicular ligament, interclavicular ligament, and intra-articular discoligamentous complex. Then we go to acromioclavicular joint. The acromioclavicular joint provides stability and motion to the shoulder complex. Type of joint. It is a plain type of joint. It also allows only gliding movement. This joint attaches scapula to the thorax. So, it allows an additional range of motion to the scapula. It also assists in shoulder abduction and flexion. And it allows the transmission of forces from upper limb to the skeleton. Ligaments. 3 main ligaments stabilize this acromioclavicular joint. Acromioclavicular ligament, that is one. Then we have coracoclavicular ligament complex that consists of ligaments of conoid and trapezoid. And third, we have coracoacromial ligament, which is a strong triangular band. Thank you.